Okay, so in the last video, I encountered when I went through and was searching for items to curate and include in my Spanish corpus on generative AI, I found this item that I liked. The English title is Generative Artificial Intelligence Breakthrough and Challenges. This was one, oh, look, it comes from Mexico, from Chiapas, Mexico. So that makes it even better. I think when I was looking at the item in Google Scholar, it talked about it being published in Colombia, but it looks like it was published by an author who writes Mexican Spanish, and so it's even better, this one, for including it in the corpus. So the next step that I need to do for this item is I need to add it to my corpus database, and I need to do some processing around making sure that I have a good organization when I'm saving this corpus item. So when we're working on our corpus item processing, the first step is to do the database entry. And we have a database file in JSON format for each of the languages that are included in the project. What's pretty cool from this JSON file, if we go to the Corpora page, the sources come directly from the JSON database files. And so anytime we make an update, and for this version 1 of the web application, push updates to the database file to the GitHub repo, this page is going to automatically update and include the current list of English sources. So that's kind of a cool feature that also prevents some like manual rekeying of the same information over and over again, rather than, you know, taking the time to include the content in the database file and then recopy the information onto the web page. That would get to be a little bit much, and there's more chance of human mistakes too if I'm doing these like manual copy paste operations. And so that's kind of a cool feature of this project. So I've got the item, I've downloaded the item, and now I want to place the item for into the submissions folder that I have for this language. So if I bring Visual Studio Code into view here, um, I've got my organization. My corpora are very well organized. They're organized, it's called the corpora folder. Within the corpora folder, we have a folder for the domain of generative artificial intelligence. Then there's a folder for the English corpus on generative artificial intelligence, the Spanish corpus on generative artificial intelligence, and soon we'll have 2 more folders here, depending on the progress that the team members can make for Mandarin, Chinese, and Swahili. Um, within, I should note that I've got a GAI folder here under Corpora because I'm trying to build room to add more domains to the project later on. So under Corpora later on, we might have another folder that's for like immigration or climate change. And then within those folders, we would have more nested folders for English items, well, items in all of the project languages. So if I go to the Spanish folder, I have folders for items that have been processed already, items that I've already created the JSON for. I've got the submissions. These are the original PDF files that I've found and processed. And then I have this database file where it's a JSON file, so it's a series of it's a series of keys and values organized according to the structure of JSON files, where it starts with an object where we've got the document object. Within the document object, we've got our first Spanish corpus item listed as GAI-ESP underscore item 001. Later, if I go all the way down to the end of that object, I can find another object for GAI-ESP underscore item number 2. And so each item is getting its own space within this database file. And essentially, I want to get the content ready by creating a new space within the database file for Spanish for this new item that I want to add. So first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, in the submissions folder, I want to add the document that I just downloaded. So I'm going to go get that document. And then it's named just document PDF. I want to rename it according to the naming conventions for the project. So if I go to my file naming conventions, I'll see that the way that I should name this file is according to the author's last name. I should give it an abbreviated title, and then I should use the year of publication. So I'm going to go and do that for the document that I'm working with. We'll call this one rename. Well, we want the author's name, so I'm going to include that. I'm going to eliminate the spaces between the two names. Maybe I'll go ahead. I did something wrong. Yes. Maybe I'll write the name, the file name in a TXT file first. And then I can copy it in. So I want to remove the space from the last name. I need an underscore now with an abbreviated title. Let's just call this one Breakthroughs and Challenges using the Spanish name though. So I'll use some camel case here so it's clear where the words are changing or where we have the start of a new word, and then this one was published in 2023. So now I can copy this file name that meets the file naming conventions, and I'm going to rename the file. Now, in this video, I'm going to cover adding this item to our database. So first of all, I've got this database template that I can work from. If we go through line by the template, so this is, we can copy this, adjust it for the item that we're working on and copy it into the database. So things I would want to adjust. Let's go ahead and get this. Let's move it after the last item. So every object has to have a comma after it. Hopefully I placed that at the right level. I don't need this. And I just want to check the previous one. So I have my comma. I think I have one too many of these. Let's see, what did I do wrong here? Well, actually, I haven't done anything wrong. I just have this, then I need one of these and one of these. Let's go look at problems. End of file expected, property expected. Aha, I've got one too many of these because I have my opening for this item right here. So I'm going to update this to item 003. It's a Spanish document. Now I need to determine what language variant this one is. So let's see, maybe I can do a search about this author is studying in Mexico. So I'm going to make an assumption that this is Mexican Spanish. And I'm going to update the item in quotes here to Mex for Mexico. Next, I need the title of the document. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up the document in a separate window. I don't always need to be working from within Visual Studio Code. So here's the full title that I can copy into the title. The author's name is, let's go get our document back. We're going to copy the author's name in. We'll copy their affiliation in. Everything needs to go on a line. And then there's no other authors, so I can get rid of that object right there and the comma. Next, I need to know who's the publisher of this document. And the publisher is Revista Enfoques. So we can indicate the publisher, Revista Enfoques. I remember that it was published in 2023. The domain, no matter what, is generative AI. The text type, it's an academic paper. If it's got more than one text type, let's say it's an academic paper and it's like a research proposal, then I can keep this array in there. This is an array. Anytime we have a list, it's an array, but there's something wrong here too. The thing is, it's only an academic paper, so I don't need the array. I don't need the list here. I just need to say it's an academic paper. Again, if it was more than one thing, you can see this is a list. It includes, it's the template, so it includes the templatized selections that we have available or templatized options that we have available to answer each one of these specification questions. This one is informational. Oh, I do need the comma. I accidentally deleted the quote in front. The system's pretty good about telling me when I make mistakes. The point of view, I would say academic researcher. We could even put subject matter expert, but I think I'm going to just stick with academic researcher, knowing what I know about academics and academic publishing. Because I'm keeping two choices in here, I'm going to keep it inside of the array, the list. And I'm going to go into more detail about what are objects and what are arrays in the next video. There's also a lot more I can share with you. There's a video I can share with you of another content creator who does a nice video on working with JSON files as well. Next, we have the audience. So I think the audience is going to be academics, maybe educators. It could be the general public. What is the title of this? It could be students, researchers. Just trying to figure out who's the audience. And I think the audience is going to be these groups primarily: academics, educators, general public, researchers, students, and subject matter experts. In terms of the reach, this is essentially like a risk category. How far will the content be disseminated? If the content is for informational purposes only. The idea is that it's not being disseminated that widely, so the risk of bad consequences if there's mistakes in the content is lower. Because this is published by a Mexican author, by a Colombian publisher, I think its reach is regional. It's also global to a certain extent because anyone can access the paper. And so that's the reach I'm going to get it. For the topics, I can go directly to the paper, to the keywords in the paper itself. And I'm going to use the Spanish keywords. I'm not going to use the English keywords because this is the Spanish paper. So I'll clean up my keywords a little bit. We've got artificial intelligence, technological revolution, machines, ethics of technology, knowledge management. I don't really know what this machines one is, but I guess maybe it was just a mistranslation in the, I think I'll just take that one out. So I'm going to go back and include these one by one in the topics. I'll get this over to the side. And then since I'm adding one more item to the list, I need another comma and a set of quotes. And I'm going to add the last topic in the middle there. Okay, so I've got a summary, space for a summary. I've got a space for the suggested citation. Let's get the suggested citation. It looks like it's missing a page number here. So I'm just going to go get, you see how it's got the dash, but it doesn't include the actual last page. So we'll just go get the last page number. That's no big deal, through 82. And I'll want to eliminate these unnecessary line breaks here as well. Okay, so the processing metadata, here's where I'm going to put the actual file name. The date that I created this, I'm creating this, which will be for the file paths. This is where these files are found, so that later on, for right now, we'll have an easy time navigating the corpora because we don't have that many items in it yet. But once we get 40 or 50 items in it, if something fails, we're going to want to have information on exactly where to find the document that we're looking for. I'll fill in this part later on because I'm saving processing notes are going to be things that I come up against as I create the JSON file that contains the contents of this corpus item. For instance, in previous files, I've made notes like, oh, I haven't figured out how to represent bold text in the JSON files yet. I haven't, in this file, I processed everything but the references list. In this file, it's just notes that will remind me later on sort of some of the additional pieces that I may need to still work on. So now I'm just missing my summary. I want a summary in Spanish and then a word count. The word count is kind of tricky to get at. To get these two items, and in fact, I could have done this for the entire meta file, but I'm going to head over to Cloud to get this information. And in fact, I could have asked for Cloud's help generating the metadata for the entire contents of that file. You can see here where I've been processing different corpus items step by step with the help of Cloud. So right here, I'm just going to say, could you help me to fill out the rest of the metadata for the attached file. I can give it what I already have. Here's the metadata I've already filled in, and I need the summary in Spanish plus the word count. Alternatively, I could just give only the template to Cloud plus the document and just say, could you fill out all of the metadata for this file for me? But I wanted to show the super manual approach so that we have it on record, but I've definitely just been giving Cloud the template for the metadata and saying, can you fill this in based on the attached document? Okay, so I paused the video there a little bit while Cloud was thinking, but as you can see now I have a summary of the article that I'm going to go add in the summary space, and then I've got the word count as well. The word count is an important thing to try to at least get an estimate on because according to research, if we're building a special language corpus, like the one I'm building here, a good starting point is about 100,000 words. We're going to expand upon that a little bit because in order to be able to start making conclusions about the quality of the automatic translations being generated by our system, we need about 40 or 50 documents, but we want to know how many words are in each corpus as well. So that's why we're collecting the word count. We can get some totals from that later on. So now I've got my database content filled for this new item that I'm adding to the corpus.